Michael with myrod.com, and today I'm going to explain the thought process that we go through when we evaluate a potential purchase of a vintage car. Hopefully this will help you guys. It's helped us a lot. We've been doing this for 20 years. We're super particular. We only buy cars that we can believe in and feel good about selling. So let's get started and we'll explain the thought process we go through and the value attributes that we consider when purchasing a classic car. The first attribute I want to discuss is desirability. And if you're familiar with us, you know the type cars we buy. If not familiar with us, click up here and you can go to the website and see that we typically buy the rare, much harder to find, high quality, high integrity examples. That's just what we're looking for because they're super desirable. Now, this little guy right here I have behind me, is it desirable? Yes, it's a fastback Mustang. And by definition, any fastback Mustang, we're talking here 66, is very, very desirable. But this one takes it well beyond that. It's a factory GT, which is another topic, which we made a video. If you want to know how to determine whether your car is a factory GT or the car you're looking at purchasing, click here. And this is a video we made about how to verify whether a car is a factory GT. We've done that with this car, and in fact, it is a factory GT. That makes it super desirable. So desirability is one of the value attributes that we consider. Okay, the second value attribute, or thing that we look at when considering purchasing a classic car, is condition. And I won't go do a deep dive on that topic, but instead I'll keep it focused on why we purchased this car, why we thought this car made the cut in terms of condition. Now clearly it's not one of the fresh examples that we typically deal with, but the condition's really extraordinary for an unrestored car. Now it is wearing a very funky psychedelic 1970s, late 70s, early 80s mod Redux paint job, which obviously wasn't a real good one and didn't wear well, but the car is in fantastic condition for a almost 55-year-old unrestored Mustang. So let's take a look. Let's walk around this car and look and see why this car is in fantastic condition. Okay, on the topic of condition, let me first say that when we are looking at Mustangs to purchase, we start with looking at the floors. That is super important. I cannot overstress that on vintage Mustangs. We'll put the car on the lift here in a minute and you can look at the floors, and the floors are amazing, super impressive. So we'll do that, but let's walk around the car and look at what it is. What it is an original unrestored car that survived very, very nicely. If you look at the interior is completely original. You also might notice that all 4 courtesy lights are working, which is indicative of this car. We found this car to be alive in every way. So the interior with some patina, not much. There's a little fatigue in the passenger seat, and one little tear, I think, one seam's come loose on the headliner and the driver's side armrest, and that's about it. Otherwise, this is a nice survivor interior that I wouldn't even touch. Now let's walk around this car and look at the body. Okay, with the exception of this fender having been replaced right here and the hood, you're looking at an original sheet metal car. It was in a light fender bender, which required that the fender get replaced and apparently the hood, but the inner fender's still original. They hammered it out and just went on with it. This piece really should be replaced. It would look a little bit nicer than this hammered out area. And this is the piece that's replaced on 95% of these cars anyway, because the battery acid gets this front section, interior apron, passenger side, and we have a new one that goes with this car. But under the hood, this is one of the most original presentations I've seen in years. It basically looks exactly like it did when it came from Mr. Ford's factory almost 55 years ago. Of course, it's got the original stamped inner fender here, A code for the GT, but these bolts and nuts and everything you see, wiring, it's an original car. Super, super impressive. Everything here is original. These are original OEM style steel wheels, all the original emblems, all the chrome, all the stainless. In fact, I don't know that I can find a reproduction part on this car. There are a couple of aftermarket gauges, period gauges that were added, but other than that, she looks like it's got all its born with parts. Almost impossible to find, and the kind of thing Tyler and I geek out over. Look at this stainless right here. It's absolutely gorgeous. This is one of the pieces that doesn't typically survive good on these old Mustangs, but it's absolutely beautiful. And the interior, again, take a closer look. It's super impressive to be original. Even the pedals look fantastic. So condition, glass-wise, we did replace the windshield. It came with the original windshield, which was super cool. It had the inspection sticker from the last time this car was on the road, which was 1979. And I saved a picture of that so that it would go with, help establish the provenance on this car. But condition-wise, for an unrestored car, it's fantastic. Well, while on the topic of condition, I almost forgot about the trunk area, which is really important. This is typically the ugliest area of a Mustang because they just didn't put a lot of effort into finishing it out super nice, but this is pretty impressive. You can see the original beautiful silver blue in here, and if you know what to look at in these trunks, this one is super impressive. By the way, it takes about 5 seconds on this one, and you can see we're talking about factory quarter panels. So not only does it have its original floors, it has its factory quarter panels, which is also super rare, super hard to find. So let's throw it on the lift and take a look at this undercarriage. Okay, we're at the most important part of an inspection of a vintage Mustang. It's the undercarriage. Again, I cannot stress how important that is. Learn to evaluate the undercarriage of a vintage Mustang. Do not buy a vintage Mustang without looking at the undercarriage. If someone won't show you high resolution pictures of that undercarriage, don't buy it. It's critical. It's all structural. It's very critical. Now, does it have to be perfect and original like this one? This is a freak. The chances of you ever finding one like this are slim to none. They've all had some work. The question is, how good was the work and how much work was required? This is a dry Colorado desert car that didn't require any work, and it's 100% original underneath, and we'll get to that in just a second. First, let me show you what I found in the trunk. This is pretty cool. This is an exhaust port drop, you know, where you can let the exhaust go out another pipe as opposed to out the rear end. It's just part of the history of this car. They're still on the car. We'll look at those in just a minute. I also found the original keychain, State Farm keychain from Englewood, Colorado. It's got the original keys attached to it. Part of the history of the car, just things that came forward with the car, like this exhaust port. This is cool. This is what someone did so they could enjoy the car the way they wanted to, just like the funky mod paint job. It was their idea of how to enjoy the car. It's part of the history of the car. Fortunately, it's the only changes they made. It's otherwise almost exactly the way Mr. Ford made it in 1966. So let's look at this undercarriage, and I'll show you, just give you the highlights of what's important to us. First, the inner quarter drops right here. This is typically the first place to rust out on a Mustang. Just a weak spot. And I call them Rustangs for that very reason. They're perfect. They're original. They're amazing. Don't expect that on 90% of the cars, but every now and then you'll find it. I call cars like this freaks. This car's a true freak. Okay, so you can look up in the wheel wells and see that they're all original and they're all super good. Looking at the rear frame rail, seeing that no work has ever been done. This is the original OEM Ford installed frame rails, just like the floorboards. They're 100% original and as perfect as you could hope to find them. Here's the front frame rails, original, perfect. The only issue on this whole entire car is this little, maybe a 2-inch by 2-inch spot on the toe board where it kicks up here on the passenger side. Little spot repair would take care of that. Going forward, frame looks absolutely perfect. It's original, untouched. All the way forward, examining all the metal, looking for evidence of metal work. There is no metal work. And so this is dreamy. Again, don't insist on every Mustang being like this because they won't be. This again falls in the freak category. And a lot of it has to do with the life that it lived and the location of the country it was in. So that's the undercarriage of a Mustang. Super good. Now this is a well-preserved survivor type car. Hadn't been really on the road for 41 years. We're going to go drive it and see what's left in it. I think you'll be impressed. Let's go on that test drive. Okay, here we go on our test drive. Okay, we'll be out of the neighborhood in a minute, and all I can say is this little car seems to be alive and well. I mean, I'm sure it has to need more sorting of some sort. But right now, this is the second time I've test driven it, and it's yet to exhibit any bad habits. It does what it's supposed to do. We'll get out here and we'll go highway speed and, you know, take it through the gears a little bit and see what happens. But I think nothing will happen. I think it'll just do what it's supposed to do. Okay, I'll demonstrate what a 3-speed is like. 3-speed's fun. I'm in first gear. You get to stay in first gear longer than you do in a 4-speed. Now over to second. And then third. And you're done. One less gear to shift. And actually it's super cool to get to stay in first and second a lot longer than you do in a 4-speed. Now 3-speed, when you say 3-speed, a lot of people go, oh no, I want a 4-speed, but they've probably never driven a 3-speed. A 3-speed is nothing to turn your nose up at all. And this is a factory GT 3-speed, which I gotta admit, this is the first one I've ever seen. I know they made them, but this is the first I've ever seen. Pretty cool. She has no problem accelerating. She goes. This little motor is alive and well. Blinkers are working. Horns working.
We did the President, Texas.
Radio's working. Wipers are working. I think it's a fully functioning car. As far as I can tell, the instrument cluster's working as well. I can see that the factory temperature gauge has been rerouted to a aftermarket temperature gauge, and aftermarket temperature gauge is working. But I always like to test them with my own little laser temperature gauge, which gives me a dead-on accurate reading, and I think we'll find she's running cool. Okay, watch how easy it is to steer this little thing. It's a power steering car. Okay, so palm of one hand, hard U-turn right here. It's pretty impressive. Rough railroad tracks right here. No problem. Seems to me with very little attention, or with the right attention, this car is drive every day. You can daily drive this car, which is amazing to me. For it to really not have done time in 41 years to be able to hop in this thing. But it's a testimony to how simple these cars are. They're just very simply constructed cars, really brilliantly made in a lot of ways. Easy to enjoy and use. And so this one, boy, the upside and the promise of having a factory silver blue with beautiful two-tone blue interior, manual shifting 289 ACO GT. That's something to be proud of. That's an American treasure right there. Okay, our test drive's almost over, so I just want to recap some of the value attributes that we focus on when we purchase our cars. Now, there are more than just the 3 that I wanted to discuss in this video, but in the time frame we have for this video, we just touched on the 3 most important ones, and that's desirability, and that's condition, and that's originality. In the case of this car, originality was critical because we only deviate from originality when we think the changes dramatically enhance the car. So anyway, yes, the car, desirability, it is absolutely desirable. No question. The whole world loves a fastback Mustang, a 66 fastback Mustang, super desirable. A GT, all the more desirable. And then one in this condition, second value attribute, is impossible to find. Basically a car that still has its born with parts after almost 55 years is really almost a miracle. And this car does. And the condition of those parts substantially are fantastic. It's unbelievable. The car's still alive. And originality. Those, originality and condition, can both go hand in hand, but they also could be mutually exclusive. And in terms of originality, I don't know how you get more original than this. I've yet to find a reproduction part on this car. There probably is somewhere. I haven't seen it yet, but that's phenomenal. So this car, in terms of the top 3, or the 3 most important value attributes, it's a home run. It's really a special car. And what I really love about it is that I have tons of people always looking for something short of the typical car that we sell, which is almost museum quality. If you're familiar with our cars, you know that. Well, this car has the potential to be museum quality. In fact, you have to start with a good car to end up with a good car. And I think this goes well beyond the category of a good car. Some of the cars that people restore, frankly, this is just me and my taste, I wouldn't own. I don't want a car that's been so far down that it had to be completely reskinned with new metal and on and on and on and full of reproduction parts. You know, my preference is to have as much original stuff on the car as possible. And that's what this is. It's an incredible presentation. So I hope you enjoyed the test drive. If you enjoyed the test drive, click like, you know, and please subscribe to our channel. I think you'll enjoy some of the videos that my son and I do. We're passionate about these cars, and the cars that we choose are cars that we would own ourselves. I would own this car, no doubt about it. So I think you'll learn something and you might even be entertained. So come back often, and thanks for tuning in. Adios.